Many of you have questions about being a highly sensitive person, and I cannot tell you what it's like for all people that are highly sensitive people because we are not a monolith, but I can tell you my story on a few moments that I knew that I was a highly sensitive person. One of them was when I began playing the sport of football. I will go in reverse order because I think it's important to just start where I remember it best. And we'll go in three modes here, but being a highly sensitive person, it's different for everybody. Not all of us are the same. No one highly sensitive person is the same as another HSP. It just is what it is. But if my story can help you understand who you are better and know that you're not alone and know that your feelings are absolutely perfectly what they are, can acknowledge that they're there. That is the beginning to healing, or not that you have to heal, but just understanding who you are. A lot of us have pain from not acknowledging who we are, and we have to begin that process of healing just to even get to the identity of who we are. And I know that's really tough for some people. But one of the first things that I realized when I was not a football player or HSP, being a highly sensitive person, was conflicting with me being a football player. And look, this isn't to say that you can't be a HSP and a football player. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is that when I realized I was an HSP, there was several things going on. I mentioned this story earlier in this channel about me going to a school counselor and then being like, I think you should join the highly sensitive student group. And I was like, I don't need that. I'm not sensitive. And that reaction by itself, would tell you all you need to know. But internally, privately, I knew that something was going on, and I knew it. When I knew that it was going on, I stopped playing football. And it wasn't anything to do with the sport particularly. It was there's a lot of things going on. It was the particular coach setup that we had, the language that was being used. I knew that at the end, I had put on this mask for so long that I was okay with what was happening, that I just couldn't be. Not all football programs are the same, but I was not built for that program. I could sustain 6 months out of the year of just crude swimming and running, like track and field and swimming. Like I could do that. But being in that football program, I felt broken. And so by the end of it, I left. And I knew that I had to preserve my feelings and my emotions and, just what was going on with me over this idea of the team, rah, rah, And so that was the final acknowledgement of it. It was like, I'm not gonna make it through this anymore. I can't mask this anymore. And going in reverse, one of the moments I realized I had when I was a freshman. So I only played freshman, sophomore, junior, but I played a lot of football before that in Park. And not that this was high-end football, but it was just, you're putting a helmet on, you're putting pads on, and you're going out and hitting somebody as hard as you can. And so my freshman year, I remember I just laid somebody out, just boom, went face through somebody, laid him out. And I remember him hitting the ground and just I heard this kind of cry out in pain. And I started crying. I just started feeling awful. And I cried in the sidelines and I just hit it. And I just didn't want, even saying this out loud is just a lot. I felt so bad for the kid. And then, a few games later, I got lit up so hard. The lenses from my glasses flipped out. I remember I was running this way on trying to catch a sweep. I didn't see the blocker coming this way, and then boom, lenses flew. I remember the last thing I saw was the lenses flying out of my glasses, and I was just like, ah. But I didn't feel bad for myself in that moment. I wasn't like, oh, woe is me. But when I had hit that other kid, it was a special teams hit. So we were running full blast and just laid him right out. And I was just like, that it hurt to watch him hurt. And then here's the thing that happened after that. This is where I knew it was going sideways, like right away. But I stuck with it for 2 more years, was I put on the posture and the mask that I liked playing football. And I enjoyed, hitting other people and hurting other people on the field. And like getting like a good tackle in or something like that. It's this, I put on the guise or the mask that I was okay with what was happening. I love watching football. I love watching professional football. Again, this is not anything that's against football. It's just, I wasn't built for that program and what was going on. And I think we do this a lot. I think a lot of people that feel deeply, not to say that nobody feels deeply, but not all people feel deeply, but when we do feel deeply, or we have moments of high sensitivity, we put on this mask where we're like, oh, I'm fine. When in fact, we are not. We absolutely are not. And I was not okay in that moment at all. And I just carried on as if I was. And I promise you I was not. I was in a place of inauthenticity unto myself that propelled me forward or perpetuated this idea of my identity that I was this tough guy that could play football, when in fact I was not. Now we go reverse even further. Parkboard football. I felt so slighted by the coach that I wasn't put on the field, or for some reason that I went to the bleachers. And I got like 6th, 7th grade, I think, it's pretty young. And I had my cleats on and I went over to the bleachers and I started tap dancing. That's it. I just started tap dancing with my cleats. And I did that for the rest of the game. I can't. And this was after I started theater as a kid too. Like, I'd been doing theater for some time, and I just started tap dancing on the bleachers. And I was like, yeah, this isn't it for me. I'm good. And I remember it being so cold, and it was just, I was like, I'd rather tap dance than play football. And like, at that point, it was like, I probably should have stopped right there. I don't think my mom was attending that game, but like, somebody should have been like, I think that kid should not play football. But there I was, tap dancing. Now, to get to the point of this, when I knew that I was a highly sensitive person, it just happened. It happened when I felt that the way I was wired was too emotional for what was going on outside of me, or was too sensitive for the activities around me. And when I felt that I was in dissonance or disparity with the 3D around me, I would then mask what I was feeling or who I was at the moment. Like, I would mask my identity. And the tap dancing on the bleachers, I mean, that seems like I couldn't tell you what was going on there, but I know that it was a byproduct of me trying to be this football player that I was not. And me, laying this kid out on the special teams run and then pretending that it was okay and then crying afterwards is like a total like conflict of who I was and who I felt I had to be. And I know that we do this a lot. I know that we have this conflict of who we feel we have to be versus who we're being, or who we actually are in the moment. And many times we take on this idea of what we have to be versus who we are and who we want to be. And entire lives can get lived to the point that we've lived this idea of what we felt others wanted us to be, or what we felt our parents wanted us to be, or our grandparents wanted us to be, or our community wanted us to be, our faith, our country wanted us to be. And we never really take on what it is who we feel we are, who we want to be. And there's this moment where you will either change out of choice, or you will change because you either change your behavior out of choice, or you'll change your behavior because there are no other options. For me, I changed out of choice because I wanted to do theater, I wanted to write, I wanted to tap into what was going on in my head a little more. And when I got to college and I had Lyme disease, and my body was like just in a very bad way, I had no other options. And I was like, either I'm doing theater or, nothing. And as long as I knew the craft that I could express myself through, or live in, or be a part of as an HSP, well, then that was it. That was all I really needed, right? So I wasn't going to sign up or try to involve myself in something that I knew that I didn't want to be a part of, or try to involve myself in something that I felt I needed to be a part of, but really wanted to, tap dance on the bleachers. Saying it out loud is so wild. I can't believe it. And I think there's a moment where we all have our tap dance on the bleachers moment, where we're like, man, I really would love to be doing this rather than that. And it's not out of, fatigue or any lack of energy or anything like that. It's just, wow, really inspired by that and not this. And for me, that was part of how I knew, going into understanding myself as a highly sensitive person, but then also understanding just myself and being able to dive into writing the way that I was really, really opened everything up for me. And I took poetry classes that I would have never thought of taking my freshman year, that I took my senior year, and it opened everything up for me. I loved it. And what ended up happening was my senior year in high school, I dropped football and I went and auditioned for a play, and I got in the play. And then after a few weeks with the play, I was like, nah, this isn't it either. I don't want to do this. It was a musical, and it was more time than football took. Imagine that. And I wanted to do, I didn't know what it was, but I knew I wanted to do something different with live performance. And as long as I kept trying to find my way, I ended up finding it by marking off what, I didn't want to do. This is kind of close, but it's not it. It's kind of close, that's not it. And I kept moving along and finding myself in these situations where I was either being entirely inauthentic unto myself, and I'm like, why did I sign up for this? Or I would be like, wow, I'm pretty close, keep going, warmer, you're hot, So that's how I really found my way as an HSP, but I think the big part was being honest when I was being inauthentic with myself and saying, where did we get this idea? This isn't our idea. Who did we get this idea from? Because this isn't something I never wanted in the first place. So let's figure that out. And that ended up changing everything. It changed all my friendships, relationships, in the way that I see the world, the lens through how I see the world. It changed everything, and it was beautiful. And so I think for you, looking back at moments at where you were colliding with who you felt you had to be versus who you want to be, or who you already are. I think looking at those moments helps us deeply, because being something that we think we have to be can be so tough, not only on ourselves, but it becomes enmeshed in our identity, and to the point that we forget who we want to be, or we forget who we are. And I think it's really important to understand first that you're a human being having a human experience, or your soul having a human experience, or basically that you are a human and you feel and you're vulnerable and you have emotions and you have all these things, that's who you are. That is that is your ability. It is an ability to feel things deeply. It is not a disadvantage. And so I think understanding that is just so big, and really not becoming married to the mask that you feel you have to wear sometimes. So that's what I got for you in this video on how part of my journey as a highly sensitive person and how I came to understand it. And hopefully it can help you in understanding who you are or who you want to be or what you're going through in your life at this moment. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I will answer them to the best of my knowledge. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. See you in the next video.